believe that it is important that no student feels invisible. So then, how do we engage our students?
Student engagement refers to the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught, which extends to the level of motivation they have to learn and progress in their education. The concept of student engagement is predicted on the belief that learning improves when students are inquisitive, interested, or inspired, and that learning tends to suffer when students are bored, dispassionate, disaffected, or otherwise disengaged. Stronger student engagement or improved student engagement are common instructional objectives expressed by educators. Engagement is also defined as the time and energy students devote to educationally sound activities both inside and outside of the classroom, and the policies and practices that institutions use to induce students to take part in these activities. Not only are students invested in the process of engagement, but institutions are also held accountable to implement policies and practices to induce students to engage. The correlation with retention and graduation rates. The higher levels of student engagement are positively correlated with higher student retention and graduation rates. These two, both student retention and graduation rates, are also identified as two additional concerns for community colleges. Lack of student engagement is a persistent cause for concern on community college campuses. Some of the challenges and hindrances that are caused from this lack is the lack of instructional support for retention programs. Part-time students. These are students who enroll part-time and are normally less engaged than their full-time peers and more likely to drop out of college. Also in community colleges are part-time faculty. They advise students less frequently, use active teaching techniques less often, spend less time preparing for class, and are less likely to participate in teaching workshops. Some of the ways to develop a connected community college are to close that gap between perceived need for services and the actual need of student services. Also, creating a functional professional relationship across student and academic affairs is essential to creating a campus environment that encourages both student engagement and student success. Also, there is a need to foster a culture of engagement. This is where faculty, staff, and students alike are committed to connect with each other and the educational experience so that students are presented with an environment that is conducive to learning. According to the Community College Survey of Student Engagement, colleges should incorporate the use of some student services into coursework or making them use mandatory for all first-time students to attend. For example, attend orientation and advising sessions prior to registration, career counseling appointments, and class assignments that involve resume writing. Also, with the growth of technology and its constantly evolving, community colleges should also look into newer forms of engagement, such as online tutoring. And lastly, there must be a collaboration and support across the institution. Lastly, we'll look at strategies for student engagement. This is taken according to the Community College Student Report. One of the big ways for community college to have more success with student engagement is to engage early and engage often. So typically, community colleges lose half of their students prior to the beginning of their sophomore year. So designing engagement efforts that start from the moment of the students' first interactions with college and also continuing with powerful focus during their first few weeks and months as college students will help with their engagement within their 2 years at a community college. Also, there is the 5 benchmarks of effective educational practice. These 5 benchmarks are active and collaborative learning. This is like problem solving, working with others. Some examples are think, pair, share, minute paper, papers, writing activities, debates, group work, case studies, role play, simulations, challenging questions, and even lab activities. Second is student effort. This is where the student's own behavior contributes significantly to their learning. So as instructors and faculty members ask students to complete self-assessments, require multiple drafts or papers, recommended readings, communicate amongst students, help students set challenging goals, and also meet with the students when needed. Third is academic challenge. This is creative work, make them think outside the box. So examples are analyze, case study assignments, additional readings, require written papers and oral presentations. Fourth is student-faculty interactions, more contact between students and faculty. Some examples are icebreakers, interact with enthusiasm. Instructors should treat students as human beings, use email regularly, get to know your students, advise them, share experiences, show interest, and foster good lines of communication. Lastly, support for learners. Students perform better and are more satisfied as colleges that are committed to their success and cultivate positive working and social relationships. Some examples are campus tours, group activities, refer them to resources that may help them, like a tutor or financial aid, encourage them to set up appointments with advisors. These 5 benchmarks were created, and they're from the Community College Survey of Student Engagement, and they reported that most students spend little time on campus, and that in fact most successful engagement strategies currently occur in the classroom. So with these 5 benchmarks practices, institutions can engage students in the classroom where they spend most of their time. And lastly, the best way for community colleges to work on their student engagement and retention rates right away is to have their leaders, administrators, and student affairs professionals begin considering the student populations they serve and the institutional structures that contribute to or hinder student engagement. Once these factors have been identified, colleges can begin to examine ways to develop practices that encourage student engagement, retention, and academic success. The commitment to nurturing student engagement needs to be reflected from the top down in the day-to-day culture and mission of the institution.